That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, boys. It is here. We have NFL football. I have been waiting for this for literally, I don't know how long. I mean, y'all know I make a video every single day, 365 days a year. I mean, y'all know I'm streaming every single night. We have streamed every single night for the past month with real money fantasy drafts. This is my entire life. This is everything that I live for, to be completely honest, is fantasy football, and it's here. I cannot wait. And please, guys, just decide to go down there, subscribe to the channel, go through this season with me, because we are going to have a fantastic time. We are going to win a lot of money in our fantasy football leagues. And I promise you, I'm going to continue to live stream it damn near every day. And we're going to get videos out every single day. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you drop that like down there, because we have football. And yeah, this is going to be a very fun video where we're going through and we are giving you our week 1 wide receiver rankings and tiers. But right before we do, please make sure y'all go and support the show by depositing $10 on Underdog Fantasy. This is by far and away my favorite place for really all things fantasy football. And we're going to be doing so many fun things there throughout the entire season. Deposit $10 with promo code FLOCK. You can find the link in the description. Get $25 added to your account. Get my 2021 rankings. Get my 2021 draft guide. Get my Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. I mean, you're getting paid $25 to go out there and get into fantasy football drafts, and you support the channel and you get all of this added on top. There's no reason for you not to go out there and just decide to support the channel. And let's get into this, and let's start it off with a receiver that, I mean, it was surprising to see his overall team implied point total is going to be Tyreek Hill. Okay, so with Tyreek Hill, I will be the first one to admit that, I mean, what I usually do with this process when I'm going through and I'm creating these rankings is I just go and I look at all the matchups and I just go and I go, up, let's create a top 24 list. But then, of course, we have to do more research than that, because if I'm just going off the top of my head, I mean, that's not going to be a good list whatsoever. So we have to go to Vegas. We have to look at implied team totals. We have to look at team odds. And here, it was surprising to see that, yes, the Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, they do have the best offense in the NFL, but going up against the Cleveland Browns, who we know that they want to play defense and run the ball, I thought it was going to be a game where maybe they weren't necessarily expecting the Chiefs to put up a ton of points. Well, I mean, when you have Patrick Mahomes, I guess it doesn't matter. The Kansas City Chiefs are supposed to score the second most points this week, according to Vegas. And we know Tyreek Hill, incredibly efficient. We know that Tyreek Hill, you drafted him in the first round. You're starting him no matter what. This is more so for people maybe playing DFS with these rankings at the very top. But let's go really quick through these rankings at the top, because none of these guys, I mean, you're going to consider benching anyway. Let's lead right into Davante Adams against the New Orleans Saints. So yeah, not a great matchup for Davante Adams. We have seen him put up a very big games against the Saints before, however, and here with the Davante Adams, I mean, you drafted him in the first round. You drafted him as the wide receiver 1. I wanted to put Davante Adams at the first spot overall. I mean, we actually kind of had him there until we looked at the implied team total for what you had with Green Bay versus Kansas City. And honestly, I just think that we maybe have to listen to Vegas a little bit more. And yes, Davante Adams should have higher touchdown upside than a Tyreek Hill, but still, I think we do have to have him at 2. And now going down to 3. This is, I don't want to say my bold call for the week, because obviously you're starting him no matter what, but I want to be starting as many players in this game as possible. DeAndre Hopkins at 3. I mean, here with the DeAndre Hopkins, I actually think that you're going to have this Tennessee Titans and Arizona Cardinals game. It's going to turn into a little more of a shootout than most people are expecting. So I'm trying to jam in as many of these players as I possibly can in our starting lineup, because, I mean, we have a lot of moving variables here. We have Larry Fitzgerald no longer with the team. I understand that they bring in both Rondale Moore and AJ Green, but I mean, with Rondale Moore and AJ Green, you're not expecting either one of those receivers to command a significant amount of volume in week 1. That guy's going to be a DeAndre Hopkins. I think that he's going to be in tier 1, because we're going through and we're doing this as tiers, guys, because I mean, if you did not watch our running back ranking video, really, in week 1, this is when we're working with the smallest amount of information. This is when we're going through, and I don't want to say more so guessing, but it's a lot harder to go and create those pinpoint rankings as we're going to do throughout the entire season. So instead, I want to go through and I want to put these players in tiers. So yes, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be in tier 1. And then our wide receiver 4 for this week is going to be Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, this is a game that, oh my gosh, I mean, this is probably the game that I'm going to be watching. Of course, we'll have Red Zone on one monitor, but I actually may also pull up the Philadelphia Eagles and Atlanta Falcons game, because you're actually looking at this as a spot where, I mean, you have two new head coaches. You have Kyle Pitts coming into Atlanta. We have no idea how he's going to be worked into the offense right away in his NFL career. You have Mike Davis as the feature down running back. I mean, you also have just an offense that we don't necessarily know exactly how it's going to function. We don't know what the passing volume, with the rushing volume is actually going to look like. So this game is going to be one of those must-watch games for this Sunday for us to really figure out a lot of things going forward. Now, of course, we can't just look at one game and assume that's going to happen every single time, but I really am going to be watching this Atlanta Falcons game, and of course, you have to have Calvin Ridley in that top tier. And now our last receiver that's going to be in this top tier, honestly, I did not want to put him here, and previously I had him actually in tier 2, and then we went and we did a little more research, and I was like, you know what, he's a tier 1 receiver no matter what. Stefon Diggs. We are going to have Stefon Diggs in tier 1. We are going to have him down here at wide receiver 5. And he obviously is like the wide receiver 3 on the season if you're doing season-long rankings. The problem is he does have a tougher matchup going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know the Steelers are going to be a team that really tries to run the ball, play good defense. And that's not the best matchup for a potential shootout with Buffalo versus Pittsburgh. But still, I think that Diggs is going to be an intriguing option just based off the target share that he should have. And also, you're not necessarily expecting Emmanuel Sanders to come out and Emmanuel Sanders to get a ton of targets week 1. Now, yes, Gabriel Davis may eventually step up into that role, but we don't know that for sure yet. So yeah, let's just go and let's just jam in Stefon Diggs as a tier 1 receiver. And let's go down to tier 2. And one of our must start players this week, I mean, you have to jam him in, is going to be Chris Godwin. Okay, so here with Chris Godwin, he is obviously playing in my opinion, maybe the best matchup that you're going to find all week. Going up against the Dallas Cowboys, this is a game that you're going to see, I can guarantee you, a shootout in that you're having him go up against a team that is not known for their defense. While, yes, they did try to address it in the NFL draft, that's not going to be really in play until later on in the season. I mean, a lot of those players on the defensive side of the ball for Dallas are very young, and Dak Prescott looks like he's going to be healthy. So this game's going to be a shootout. I mean, you're going to see probably throughout the entire league more points scored in this Tampa Bay Dallas game than any other. And I actually think that Chris Godwin's going to be the receiver that we want at the very top here. He's completely healthy, and he's also just the leading receiver with overall volume on this offense. So yeah, we're going to have Chris Godwin all the way up at wide receiver 6. So if you ever ask me in the YouTube comment section, if you ask me in a live stream, am I starting Chris Godwin or player X? Am I starting Chris Godwin at my wide receiver 2, or am I starting Julio Jones? It's going to be Godwin. You plug and play Godwin no matter what league you're playing in. Now let's go over to our next guy. This is going to be wide receiver 7, A.J. Brown. And yeah, like I already said, we're trying to get in as many players to this game as possible. A.J. Brown going up against the Arizona Cardinals. This is another matchup that I think we could see a potential shootout in. And you have Chris Godwin, A.J. Brown, literally neck and neck. Honestly, the main reason I'm putting Godwin over him is because we go, okay, well, not many people are going to have to make that decision. A.J. Brown, someone that you're starting in your starting lineup every single week. I really just want to place the emphasis on a Chris Godwin that you need to be starting him, because nobody's asking, oh, should I start A.J. Brown? Yes, you're starting A.J. Brown. So jam him in. This is a great matchup. Really want to be playing these Tennessee guys. If we were being just completely transparent here, probably would have A.J. Brown at 6 and Chris Godwin at 7. I just need to place that emphasis on telling you to get Chris Godwin into your starting lineup. And I mean, they play early in the week, so maybe this is going to be a game where hopefully Godwin goes out there and crushes, because if people are watching this on like a Friday, Saturday, could be a little tough for us. Could be a little tough. So now let's go down and let's look at Justin Jefferson at wide receiver 8 going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a game that I would be a little more excited about if we were confident with the Cincinnati Bengals offense for week 1. Now, I love the Bengals offense for the entire season. I think this is an offense that's going to continue to progress with Joe Burrow just getting healthier and healthier and healthier. And then also Jamar Chase hopefully emerging as that late rookie breakout in the back half of 2021. However, I think this is more so going to be a game that could be a little slower pace than what you would actually have at the end of the year, because if Joe Burrow is not 100%, I doubt they fully unleash him. I bet they maybe try to control the game a little bit more with a Joe Mixon on the ground. And also, I don't necessarily think that Jamar Chase is going to be ready to rock in week 1. Now, he's going to be on the field, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be at his peak. So yeah, Justin Jefferson, you like that he's going up against the bad defense, but I think this could be a secret game where the Vikings just go out there and pretty much blow away the Bengals and not necessarily have to just continue to pass the ball. So now our next guy will be DK Metcalf going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Now here with DK Metcalf, I mean, this is a receiver that obviously has all the tools. This is someone that's extremely talented. But going back to what we actually just said with Justin Jefferson, I think that we do have a few questions with the Indianapolis Colts offense. And I think this could be a game that maybe gets out of hand and maybe Seattle just jumps up to a very big lead. And if that were to happen, I mean, we have already seen that. I mean, when Seattle's up in the game, they're going to be looking to run. So if they were going up against the Colts when we knew for 100%, Carson Wentz was 100% healthy and he had a lot of work in this offense. We knew T.Y. Hilton was healthy. We knew Quentin Nelson. They were all 100% healthy. Then I would actually be a little more excited about the Colts offense. I would be a little more excited about this game potentially being higher pace and not necessarily having to worry about the Seattle Seahawks maybe running the ball a little bit more in the back half. But yeah, I mean, still obviously have to have him as a top 10 receiver, but I do want to have him behind guys like A.J. Brown, Chris Godwin, Justin Jefferson. Now let's go over to that Dallas Cowboys, Tampa Bay Buccaneers matchup that we were talking about. Wide receiver 10. And guys, I know this tier is very large. I understand that we are getting pretty big with this tier, but still I want to continue to go out and just make sure that we know that all these players are in a similar range. Now they're not going to be in a similar range for the entire season, but this is week one. This is us looking at these players with their matchups. And here with Mike Evans, I mean, going back to exactly what we said with Chris Godwin, we are going to have him, I mean, just in a range where you have to start Chris Godwin every single time. I mean, you get this chance and you have to start Mike Evans as well. I mean, Mike Evans could actually go out there and outproduce Chris Godwin. I know 99% of people, and probably the people down there in the YouTube comment section, would probably prefer to see Mike Evans over Godwin, knowing that Mike Evans does have that touchdown upside. Personally, I'm going to be betting on the guy that we perceive to have a higher floor with the volume, and we know that volume also leads to touchdown volume at the same time. So I'm going to be going with Godwin, but either way, I mean, you can't necessarily go wrong between Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They're both must-start players regardless. And now our next receiver, going to be in that same matchup in this same tier. We have two more receivers in this tier, and let's just throw them in together because they're going to be back-to-back. CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper finishing out our top 12 receivers here. We're going to have CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 11. And I think one thing that we have to just acknowledge is the fact that Lamb has been relatively healthy the entire process through, where Amari Cooper was dealing with that nagging injury. Amari should be good for week one, but still, I think just based on him missing some time in training camp, based on him missing the preseason, this will be a spot where we probably want to put Amari Cooper behind CeeDee Lamb for week one. I prefer CeeDee Lamb throughout the entire season. They're going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers are actually pretty heavy favorites in this game. I was surprised to see exactly how much they were favored by, but regardless, the team total for the Dallas Cowboys is going to be very high. Dak Prescott looks like he should be healthy. This game has shootout written all over it. Go out there, start as many of these players as he possibly can. So we're going to have literally 4 receivers from this single game. We're going to have Godwin, Evans, Amari, and Lamb. They're all top 12 wide receivers for me. I mean, that's the one takeaway we want to have. And I'm going out here and we're putting ourselves on a limb too, because we're recording this and that game is going to be on Thursday night. So, you know, people are watching this on Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning, and they're going to be down there in the comment section. And I encourage you, I mean, if I ever say something stupid, feel free to go down to the comment section and go, Mason, you idiot. Mason, you have no idea what you're talking about. Mason, this is what you missed. Let me know. But let's get to our next tier. So this is going to be one tier down here. We're going to go back to the other matchup that we were trying to target this week in Tennessee and Arizona. And here we are going to be starting Julio Jones. Now here with the Julio Jones, while yes, I love this matchup, I do really want to be watching this game and seeing exactly what his role is going to be, because there are actually 2 questions, not just one question that we're going to have with the Julio Jones this upcoming season. A, are they using him primarily as just a field stretching wide receiver to clear out routes underneath for just an A.J. Brown to dominate targets, to also make sure that they're not going to have stacked boxes so Derrick Henry can run the ball? That's one concern that we have. Or B, are they going to go and be a little more pass happy and they're going to decide, well, you know what? We have Julio Jones. Clearly, that's a massive upgrade from a Corey Davis. Now, all of a sudden, we can just drop back and we don't necessarily have to lean on Derrick Henry for 400 touches in a single season. I mean, I think that you could see one of either 2 options. Maybe they kind of go back and forth on that this season. I do like the fact that, I mean, this is going to be a game where I'd imagine the Cardinals put up a decent amount of points. So Tennessee is not necessarily being able to go and just play keep away with Derrick Henry. So yeah, I think Julio Jones is going to be at wide receiver 13. And now a wide receiver that a lot of people are probably screaming at me going, Mason, Mason, did you forget Terry McLaurin? Did you forget Terry McLaurin? No, guys, Terry McLaurin's coming in at wide receiver 14. He's going to go up against the Los Angeles Chargers, and this is one game that I don't necessarily want to be going all in on with these offensive players. While there are a lot of offensive studs in this game, I mean, you got Terry McLaurin, you got Antonio Gibson, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler. I mean, you have a lot of players that you can get excited about. I mean, just here with a Terry McLaurin, I don't necessarily love the matchup, and at the same time, we haven't really seen how they're going to utilize Curtis Samuel. Now, I'll say that most likely Curtis Samuel is not going to get his full role in this offense until later on in the year, given the fact that, I mean, this is a spot that Curtis Samuel has been injured throughout the entire process. He's been injured through training camp. He's been injured through the preseason, which of course you do not like to see. However, I just think the matchup for Terry McLaurin here is going to be pretty bad. So we're going to have him down in this tier at wide receiver 14. And then right next to Terry McLaurin, we're going to have someone that will probably surprise some people, but we're going to have DJ Moore. And here with DJ Moore, I mean, he's going up against the New York Jets. This should be a spot where Carolina has no problems. And I mean, this is another game that I am so excited to watch. I probably sound like a little fanboy right now, but I am. Just thinking about week one, thinking about us actually submitting our starting lineups and going through and seeing these players on the field makes me unbelievably excited. Like, you cannot comprehend how much joy week one is going to be bringing me here. But with a DJ Moore going up against the Jets, I want to see Sam Darnold. I want to see how they're going to deploy the combination of DJ Moore, Robby Anderson, and Terrace Marshall with no Curtis Samuel and Christian McCaffrey healthy. So maybe I'm getting a little too optimistic here because, yes, there are a ton of weapons on this team, and possibly this is a game where they can just go through and they can run the ball instead. But we're putting DJ Moore there. And now our next receiver, we actually have him ranked way higher than this for the entire season, but it's about the worst matchup he's going to see. Keenan Allen going up against Washington. Yeah, Keenan Allen going up against Washington, guys. I mean, this is going to be brutal. I will say that Keenan Allen is one of those receivers that I think is a little more matchup proof, given the fact that he's not playing a prototypical X style. Instead, he's going to be one of those guys that's running routes closer to the line of scrimmage, not picking up a ton of yards, rather than he's valuable because of the receptions that he's going to have. So yeah, I mean, Keenan Allen, slightly more wide receiver matchup proof than what you'd have with like an Allen Robinson, but still a very bad matchup against just an extremely talented Washington defense. Okay, so now the last receiver in this tier at wide receiver 17 is going to be Adam Thielen. And Adam Thielen, I mean, we already talked about his Justin Jefferson going up against Cincinnati, so we already kind of feel out that matchup. But here with an Adam Thielen, this is also a spot that, I mean, we are looking at him and getting a little more excited than we previously were. Y'all know Adam Thielen was actually someone I was coming out and I was saying he was being overdrafted and we wanted to be avoiding him where he was going. Then Irv Smith was ruled out for the season, and we're like, okay, well, I mean, that's kind of sucky. Now Adam Thielen's red zone role actually is locked and loaded, because who the hell else are they going to be throwing the ball to in the red zone outside of Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson? So yeah, Adam Thielen, he's going to be here at wide receiver 17. Let's go over to Robert Woods as our next wide receiver. And here with Robert Woods, this is someone that I just want to be saying, I mean, he barely makes it in this tier. Like, literally, this is a last second switch, but I'm looking at him. He's going up against the Chicago Bears. And I mean, surprising enough, I did not expect this at all, but Vegas expects the Rams to crush the Bears. I mean, the Rams are actually 7.5 point team favorites than what you actually have with the Chicago Bears. So this should be a game that the Rams take out a commanding lead, and this is another game that we need to be watching. I mean, you are going to have Matthew Stafford starting here, so of course we want to be on the lookout for that. Okay, so now going down to our next tier, we're going to have someone that I love for 2021, but he has one of the worst matchups you could ever draw. It's going to be Allen Robinson going up against Jalen Ramsey in the Los Angeles Rams. Now here with Allen Robinson, I mean, his team is not expected to score many points at all this week. I mean, if you look at the team totals for the Chicago Bears versus the Rams, it's embarrassingly bad for how many points this offense should be putting up. I mean, it does not look like you're going to have Justin Fields for week one, and Allen Robinson has a very bad, literally probably the worst cornerback matchup that you could actually draw. And going back to what we were saying with a Keenan Allen, I actually think that Keenan Allen is a little more defensive proof because you're relying on the receptions, not necessarily the efficiency, not necessarily the fact that he needs to beat his corner. Whereas Allen Robinson is that prototypical X, and you are relying on a little more just upside with the yards and the touchdowns. I think that's going to be tougher to do against the Rams. So yeah, Allen Robinson going to be down here in this tier. And now going over to our wide receiver 21, we are going to have Cooper Kupp going back to that same exact matchup. So we're jamming in a lot of players in this Chicago Los Angeles Rams matchup. And Here with Cooper Kupp, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's week 1. We just have so many questions. Like, what are we going to see with Matthew Stafford in terms of him targeting the slot, him targeting the tight end, him going with the flanker receiver in a Robert Woods? Now, Cooper Kupp, I mean, he was someone that we definitely had to raise up our rankings as the progress went through, because we looked at it and go, okay, well, he had like 8 targets a game last year. He had 8 targets a game the season prior. I mean, Cooper Kupp, we have seen the elite ceiling before. His team is supposed to be really, really good and dominant this upcoming matchup. I think we do have to have him in this tier. And now our next guy is going to be T. Higgins going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, yes, we want to see Joe Burrow healthy. Yes, we want to see a couple things with the Cincinnati Bengals offense, but I'm actually expecting the Vikings to probably handle this game controllably. And I think that could lead to the fact that maybe they're just going in, bumping up the passing volume. And of course, Jamar Chase isn't going to be someone that's coming out and beating out T. Higgins 4 targets year 1. We've been talking about this literally since Jamar Chase got drafted. Since Jamar Chase got drafted, everybody thought he was going to be the wide receiver 1 in Cincinnati. I am still adamant. It's T. Higgins. T. Higgins is the guy you want here, especially to begin the season. I mean, Jamar Chase did not look that dominant in the preseason. And now going over to our next guy, we are going to have Robby Anderson. Now with Robby Anderson, I mean, we already talked about it, going up against the Jets, a new quarterback coming in and in Sam Darnold, his old team. I mean, this is the revenge game. You got the revenge narrative going for both Robby Anderson and Sam Darnold opening up against the Jets. Maybe knowing that, we should probably move Robby Anderson up. Maybe he should move up to the top of this tier. We'll think about that through the rest of the week. I mean, obviously we have until Sunday to make that decision. And the last receiver that we're going to get going in our wide receiver top 24, we'll get some honorable mentions going after this, but let's include Odell Beckham Jr. here. So Odell going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. So usually I wouldn't want to include Odell because we know that the Browns are going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to control the game with that running game and their defense. However, guys, they're not going to be able to do that against the Kansas City Chiefs. We know the Chiefs offense, they're going to put up points. We know it's going to put the Browns in a position where they're possibly having to go out there and trying to chase back with that. So I'm expecting that we actually probably have more passing attempts per game than what we were going to see throughout the entire year from the Baker Mayfield in week 1. So yeah, I definitely want to go through and just jam in Odell Beckham Jr. where we can. It's going to be a high upside, low floor receiver, very similar to a Tyler Lockett. I mean, I think Tyler Lockett is actually going to be that first honorable mention that we can have going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Like I said, if we were 100% just guaranteed that we had all the Colts offense fully healthy, then yeah, we would be a lot more excited about jamming in Tyler Lockett with the possibility of a shootout. A little worried that Chris Carson is just going to wind down that game in the 4th quarter though. And then also we have Brandon Aiyuk as an honorable mention. Here with Brandon Aiyuk, I mean, the issue is he's been dealing with that hamstring injury, so I do want to see how that's going to play out. Also, they're going up against the Lions. This is going to be a team that runs the ball in week 1 against the Lions. So start Raheem Mostert. Don't start Brandon Aiyuk. Diontae Johnson going to be our next honorable mention. We'll throw Chase Claypool into that as well. Going up against Buffalo, I mean, you actually have the Pittsburgh Steelers, surprisingly, literally near dead last in terms of their implied team total for this upcoming week. So I actually had Diontae Johnson in our top 24 receivers until we did some more further research on how that game was supposed to flow. And then I think based on that, we do have to drop Diontae Johnson and Chase Claypool down. And our last receiver is going to be Jerry Jeudy going up against the New York Giants. Obviously, a matchup that we want to see. We want to see Saquon Barkley's health. We want to see Jerry Jeudy just playing alongside Teddy Bridgewater, what the targets also look like with Courtland Sutton, because it's going to be the first week that we ever get Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy on the field together. Now, thank you, my dudes. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. Go down there, leave any questions that you have with your start sit decisions down in the comment section below. And also go answer some other members of the community. Answer their questions down there. Subscribe to the channel. Come out to our live streams. I'll be, of course, answering questions. I mean, hit that bell next to it so you can come out to the premieres of these videos. And I think that should be it. Use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Get our rankings, get our draft guide. I mean, get everything and $25 added to your account. And yeah, that's all I got for you, my dudes. Have a great day. Thank you to everybody supporting the show on Patreon. We got some new members in MCGC, Brian, Matthew, Craig, Ian, Woody, Colt, Marcus, Jack, and Nicholas. Thank you, my dudes.